Hi, this is Nicole Austine for the Shawn Petite creative team with this week's video. Today I'm going to show you how to create this collage canvas. First off, you're going to need a canvas 12 by 12 and some paper. I'm using papers from the vintage wall paper pack and also the butterflies from the resource library. And if you don't have a canvas that has a printed image already on it like I do, you can just draw something on. What I'm doing is I'm just roughly tearing out the pieces I need from the collage paper. And it doesn't have to be precise, I'm just kind of ripping around the outlines, just sort of lifting up the paper and checking underneath for the guideline. And it's okay if you get it too small or too big, because you can always cover it up later with paint. You're going to do this for all the different colors, and I used the rainbow colors, so I'm going in order from red, orange, yellow, and green, and then using blue as an accent in the background as well as purple. And all these papers again are from the Vintage Wallpaper 3 collage pack. And once you have all your pieces ripped out, then go ahead and add some decoupage or Mod Podge, and you can move it around with a catalyst wedge or use an old gift card. I like to put a lot of glue underneath, spread it out, and then also put a bunch of glue on top. That way you minimize the wrinkles or bubbles underneath. And I'm going to do that for each piece of the collage. The smaller pieces I like to just use my finger to spread around. It's also easier to feel for bubbles, to get all those bubbles out. And you don't want to drench it with glue, you just want to use enough to get it down. And do that for all the pieces. And you want to make sure that you have a final layer of glue over all the collaged pieces. That way you can apply the paint pens and the acrylic later, and anything you don't like you can just wipe off. Here I'm going to stamp with some golden fluid acrylic and Art Foamies stamps, and I'm just going over with roughly the same color in each area, so red over the red paper, orange paint over the orange paper, and so on. And I'm not matching the colors exactly. In some cases I'm using a brighter version of that color or a darker version. For example, in the purple wings it's a lighter purple, so I'm stamping over it with a darker purple fluid acrylic. In the blue, I'm just doing a combination of sort of an aqua and also a dark blue you'll see later. Once that dries, you want to go with your pit brush pens and just outline each area in the corresponding colors. So for the red area, I'm outlining with red. In the orange, I'm outlining with orange. And also I'm quickly drawing with the pen and then smudging it so it doesn't dry. I want it to kind of have a smudgy look. I don't want that harsh line. I kind of want it to be a little bit like a shading. So I'm just going over quickly with the pen and then quickly rubbing with my finger just to spread it around before it dries. And I'll do that with all the different colors. I'm just outlining all the sections using the different colors for the section just to kind of get an outline started. The purple here is a little bit light, it's hard to see, but I'm just tracing the wings and also tracing around any edge that meets the edge of the canvas. And then the heart, I'm going around with a red color and also smudging with my fingers just to create sort of a shadow. And then also using orange and just filling in the colors to brighten it up. The yellow is really nice to brighten up as well. And in the clouds on the bottom, I used some notebook paper or music sheets to create the clouds, and I'm just outlining with light blue. And then once that marker has dried around the butterfly, I'm also going around with a light brown to kind of give it some shading and also fill in some of the details around the butterfly. And then when that dries, I'm going to go in with some of the Daler-Rowney FW inks in various colors, and again just keeping with the same red on red, orange on orange, and so forth. And here I'm just creating some drips splattering. Some of them are metallic, some of them are just plain. It's just, either way, it's just a nice way to create just some different textures. And notice I'm not doing drips in all of the areas. So some are drips, some are splatters. You just want to vary the patterns. You don't want them all to be the same. And it's also okay to mix the colors. For example, in the red heart, I'm using kind of a pink and the red also. And then just going over with a light blue for the clouds, giving it some swirls in a light blue, and then darkening the wings with a darker purple. I'm also going around the edge of the heart to kind of darken it, because that's the focal point, so I want that to stand out just a little bit more. I'm going with the yellow ink and just kind of spreading that around, and then with the orange giving it some little bit of drips. So you want to use a couple of different oranges in the orange section, a couple of different greens in the green section, and so forth. And then also using the orange to kind of outline the butterfly and highlight some of the orange areas. And then once that all dries, I'm taking some Lumiere paint in gold and just taking a brush and dipping it and then splattering gently around the heart. And then when that layer dries, I'm going to go in with some of the stencils and just give some more pattern, some more interest. And I've listed all the stencils I used in the blog post. So if you go to the blog post, you can see all the materials and all the stencils and everything that I used. And now just adding stencils to each of the sections, just like I did with the drips and the marker, just keeping it color coordinated and just trying different patterns in each one, in each of the sections. And I'm using the fluid acrylic and also a makeup sponge to give it a nicer application so that the ink doesn't run underneath the stencil. And here I'm just adding different patterns to the heart, and then also lightening some of the blue sky area. So I'm using two different blues here. I'm using a light and a dark just to vary it a little bit, give it a little bit more texture. And then going over with a darker blue, I just thought the clouds needed a little bit more, so I went over that. And I also am outlining the heart again with a dark blue. And then just adding some other little designs. It's fun to kind of draw with the inks. And then just going over the butterfly with a darker brown. It's fun to, you can really layer these colors really well, the pens, just as long as you let it dry in between. So I started with the orange, then went with a dark or light brown, and then ended with a darker brown. And that allows me to layer. So if I start with the lightest color and end with the darkest color, then I can build up those layers. And also sketching in some of the details just to make the butterfly stick out a little bit more. And that butterfly came from the free butterfly collage image from the resource library. And then I used some of the leftover wallpaper scraps and I stenciled some words on there. You can do whatever you like. And then once that dried, I am adding those collage elements to the piece in the same way as before. Just a little bit of glue underneath and then a lot over the top, smooth it out, and then let it dry. And then that gives you a nice glossy surface to write over or use any of the other medium over. And once that dries, I'm just taking the dark brown, going around, and each time I draw a little line I smudge it, and that gives it a nice little shadow. I hope you enjoyed this week's video, and I hope you're inspired to create something. I can't wait to see what you make. Thanks a lot.